Most people over 60 spend a great deal of thought on what they eat during the day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, the choices, the portions, the balance. And that attention matters. But there is a window of time that receives almost no attention at all. And according to a growing body of nutritional science, it may be the most important window of your entire day. The hour before you sleep. Because here is what most people never consider. Your body does not simply rest while you sleep. It works. It repairs. It regulates. It restores. And what you give it, or fail to give it, in that final hour before you close your eyes quietly determines how well all of that happens. You go to bed feeling reasonable, and yet you wake up stiff, heavy, foggy, moving carefully through the first hour of your morning as though your body spent the night doing something other than healing. What if it did? And what if 1 teaspoon of something already sitting in your kitchen, a liquid that has been used in cultures around the world for thousands of years, could fundamentally change what your body does during those 8 hours of sleep? By the end of this video, you will understand something about nighttime healing that most doctors never bring up in a routine appointment. Something simple, something ancient, something that science is only now beginning to fully explain. But before I tell you what this is, I need you to understand something important about what actually happens inside your body while you sleep. Because once you see this, everything about your nighttime routine will look completely different. Now, I want to be clear about something before we go any further. What I am about to share with you is not rooted in wellness trends. It is not something circulating on social media or borrowed from a morning talk show segment. It is rooted in some of the most rigorous nutritional science of the last 3 decades, and it has particular relevance for every person over 60 watching this right now. The compounds found in high-quality olive oil, specifically oleocanthal, oleic acid, and hydroxytyrosol, have been studied extensively by researchers at Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health, examined in the landmark PREDIMED trial published in the New England Journal of Medicine, and recognized by the World Health Organization as central to one of the most heart-protective dietary patterns ever documented in human populations. This is not alternative medicine. This is nutritional science that has simply not made its way into the average doctor's appointment yet, and you deserve to have it. To understand why nighttime specifically matters, we first need to look at what your body is actually doing while you sleep, because it is far more active than most people realize, and far more dependent on the right conditions than most people ever provide. Let me show you something that most people never think about, because once you see it, the importance of what happens in the hour before sleep will never feel abstract again. While you sleep, your body is not resting, it is working, actively, purposefully, and according to a remarkably precise biological schedule. Think of it as your body's nightly maintenance crew, arriving the moment you close your eyes, moving through your system with a specific agenda. After 60, that crew is still showing up every night, but it is working with fewer resources, older equipment, and a narrower window than it used to have. And what you give your body in the hour before sleep determines, more than almost anything else, how well that crew can do its job. Here is what they are actually doing. First, your cells are repairing themselves. The deepest stages of sleep are your body's primary window for cellular regeneration, including the repair of arterial wall cells damaged by daily inflammation and the restoration of joint tissue worn by movement and age. This process does not happen efficiently during the day, it happens at night, and after 60, the raw materials needed to complete it become harder to supply. Second, your body is attempting to quiet inflammation. As cortisol drops during the overnight hours, the body enters its best natural window for reducing systemic inflammatory activity. But in aging adults, this regulatory process becomes progressively less efficient, meaning the inflammation that accumulated during the day is not fully cleared by morning. You feel this as stiffness, as heaviness, as a body that never quite finished resetting. Third, your liver is managing your blood sugar. Throughout the night, your liver releases glucose into the bloodstream to maintain energy while you fast. In younger adults, this process is tightly regulated. In seniors, particularly those with any degree of insulin resistance or borderline blood sugar, it can run unchecked, contributing to elevated fasting glucose readings, morning fatigue, and quiet but ongoing damage to blood vessel walls. Fourth, your cardiovascular system is meant to recover. Heart rate and blood pressure are designed to drop meaningfully during sleep, giving your heart and arteries a period of genuine rest and repair. But arterial stiffness, increasingly common after 60, blunts this restorative dip. The heart works harder than it should, even in sleep. And the repair window that should be restoring your cardiovascular system is partially lost. These are not vague concepts. You have felt every one of them. In the stiffness that greets you before your feet touch the floor, in the fog that takes 2 hours to lift, in the fasting blood sugar number your doctor mentions with that particular tone, in the fatigue that feels too deep to simply be about how many hours you slept. These are not simply signs of getting older, they are signs of a body trying to repair itself without the right conditions and without the right support. Now, here is where what you consume in the hour before sleep becomes critically important. And here is where most seniors are leaving a remarkable opportunity completely untouched. Now here is where something important needs to be said, something that changes the way you will think about olive oil for the rest of your life. Most people think of olive oil as a cooking ingredient, a healthy fat, something you drizzle on a salad or use in place of butter. And yes, in that context, it offers real benefit. But what nutritional science has begun to reveal is that olive oil is not simply a food. It is, in the most precise sense of the word, a pharmacologically active compound. Its primary bioactive molecules, oleocanthal, oleic acid, and hydroxytyrosol, interact with your body's inflammatory pathways, your cardiovascular system, and your cellular repair processes in ways that are measurable, documented, and genuinely remarkable. But here is what almost no one talks about. These compounds do not behave the same way regardless of when you consume them. When olive oil is heated in cooking, a significant portion of its polyphenol content is degraded. When it is consumed alongside a full meal, it competes with other foods for absorption. When it is taken at random points during the day, its bioactive compounds enter a system busy with digestion, activity, and stress, and their effect is diluted accordingly. But when consumed on a near-empty stomach, in the quiet hour before sleep, something different happens. Absorption of polyphenols through the gastric lining is significantly enhanced. And those compounds enter a body that is about to spend 8 hours in its deepest repair and regeneration cycle, precisely the environment in which they are most needed and most effective. This is the emerging science of chrono-nutrition, the understanding that when we consume certain compounds is not a minor detail. It is, in many cases, as important as what we consume. And for adults over 60, whose overnight repair processes are already under strain, this timing distinction is not academic. It is personal. Millions of people use olive oil every day, drizzled on salads, poured into pans, added to bread, and they receive a fraction of its potential, not because they are doing something wrong, but because they are using it at the wrong time, in the wrong way, and without understanding what it is truly capable of. You are about to understand something different. So what exactly does olive oil do inside the body of a person over 60 when consumed at night? Let me take you through it, mechanism by mechanism, because the science here is genuinely remarkable. The answer is extra virgin olive oil, 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon, consumed in the hour before sleep, every night. Take a moment with that, because I understand it may feel almost too simple, too familiar, too ordinary to carry the weight of everything we have just discussed. But consider this. Mediterranean cultures have used olive oil medicinally for over 5,000 years, not merely as food, but as a deliberate daily act of bodily care. And for generations, those same cultures demonstrated dramatically lower rates of cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and inflammatory illness than the rest of the developed world. For decades, researchers asked why. Modern biochemistry is now providing the answer, compound by compound, mechanism by mechanism. Perhaps you already use olive oil in your cooking, in your kitchen, as part of how you eat. What I am describing today is something different. When olive oil is heated, its most powerful therapeutic compounds are partially destroyed. When it is diluted across a full meal, its absorption is compromised. What we are talking about here is a targeted, deliberate therapeutic use, a small, specific amount, consumed raw, at the precise moment your body is most prepared to receive it. This is not cooking. This is care. And here is what is genuinely surprising. It is not just one thing that extra virgin olive oil does for your body overnight. It is 5 distinct, documented biological processes, each one directly relevant to the health concerns most common in adults over 60. Let me walk you through all 5, one by one, because by the time we reach the 5th, I believe you will understand why this simple nightly habit has the potential to change how you feel every single morning. Let me take you through the 5 mechanisms, starting at number 5 and building toward the one that I believe will surprise you most, because each one matters, and each one matters more than the last. Number 5. Oleocanthal and overnight inflammation reduction. Extra virgin olive oil contains a polyphenol called oleocanthal, and what makes it extraordinary is what it does to inflammation at the biochemical level. Oleocanthal functions as a natural COX inhibitor, meaning it works along the same anti-inflammatory pathway targeted by ibuprofen. The same pathway, without the gastric irritation, without the cardiovascular risks associated with long-term NSAID use, without the side effects that make daily ibuprofen an option most seniors should not rely on. And here is why nighttime matters for this particular compound. Inflammatory activity in aging adults tends to peak during the overnight hours, precisely when the body should be quieting. Oleocanthal, consumed before sleep and absorbed on a near-empty stomach, enters that environment like a skilled, gentle firefighter arriving while everything else is still, targeting the inflammation, clearing the pathway, before it has the chance to set the tone for your entire next day. Number 4. Oleic acid and overnight cardiovascular support. The primary fatty acid in olive oil, oleic acid, has a specific and well-documented relationship with your cardiovascular system. It supports the structural flexibility of arterial walls. It reduces the oxidation of LDL cholesterol, the process that transforms borderline cholesterol into the kind that damages arteries. And it supports healthy blood pressure regulation during precisely the overnight hours when your cardiovascular system is designed to rest, recover, and repair. For seniors experiencing arterial stiffening, that gradual loss of vascular elasticity we discussed earlier, oleic acid consumed at night is not simply beneficial in a general sense. It is targeted, it is timed, and it is working while you sleep. Number 3. Blood sugar. Overnight stabilization. Here is something that surprises most people. One of the most significant contributors to morning fatigue, vascular inflammation, and insulin resistance progression in seniors has nothing to do with what they eat for breakfast. It happens while they sleep. Throughout the night, your liver releases glucose into the bloodstream, a process designed to maintain energy during the overnight fast. In younger adults, this is tightly regulated. In seniors with any degree of insulin sensitivity decline, this release can run unchecked, producing blood sugar elevations that damage arterial walls, deepen fatigue, and quietly accelerate metabolic decline. Research into olive oil's effect on overnight glucose regulation suggests that its consumption before sleep can moderate this liver-driven glucose release, reducing the overnight blood sugar fluctuations that most seniors never connect to how they feel in the morning. For those with prediabetes or borderline readings, this mechanism alone makes the nighttime protocol worth serious consideration. Number 2. Joint lubrication and morning stiffness. Reduction. The anti-inflammatory compounds in extra virgin olive oil, oleocanthal chief among them, have been specifically studied for their effect on synovial inflammation. The synovium is the tissue lining your joints that produces the fluid keeping them lubricated and functional. In adults with osteoarthritis or general age-related joint inflammation, this tissue becomes chronically inflamed. And it is this inflammation, not simply wear and tear, that produces the stiffness, resistance, and pain that greets so many seniors the moment they try to rise in the morning. Consumed during the body's overnight tissue repair window, when the system is actively working to reduce inflammation and restore cellular integrity, olive oil's polyphenols have direct access to this process. The result, reported consistently in both research literature and lived experience, is mornings that begin with noticeably less resistance, less bracing, less of that careful, calculated process of simply getting out of bed. Number 1. Neuroprotection and brain health. During sleep, and now we reach the mechanism that I believe will stay with you long after this video ends. During deep sleep, your brain activates what scientists call the glymphatic system, a dedicated waste clearance network that flushes amyloid proteins, metabolic debris, and inflammatory byproducts from brain tissue. This process is one of the most important things your body does in a 24-hour period. And reduced glymphatic efficiency, increasingly common with age, is directly associated with cognitive decline, memory deterioration, and elevated risk of Alzheimer's disease. Oleocanthal, the signature compound of extra virgin olive oil, has been studied specifically for its potential role in supporting this overnight brain cleaning process, including its ability to enhance the clearance of amyloid beta proteins, the same proteins whose accumulation is a hallmark of Alzheimer's pathology. 1 teaspoon. Before sleep, supporting the very system responsible for keeping your mind clear, sharp, and protected while you rest. By the time we reach this mechanism, the question is no longer why you would consider this. The question, the only honest question, is why you would wait. Now that you understand what is happening biochemically, let me show you what this actually feels like in the lives of real people over 60 who have made this a consistent nightly habit. Understanding the science is one thing, but what you are really asking, what matters most at the end of all of this, is simple. What will I actually feel? So let me walk you through what tends to happen, week by week, when seniors commit to this one quiet nightly habit with consistency. In the first week, the changes are subtle, but they are there. Mornings arrive with slightly less resistance. The joint stiffness that usually requires careful negotiation before the first steps of the day begins to soften at its edges. Sleep feels a little more settled, not dramatically different, but quieter somehow, more complete. Digestion through the morning hours feels calmer. Small things, but for someone who has grown accustomed to difficult mornings, small things are everything. By the second week, the shift becomes more physical and more visible. The first hour of the day, typically the heaviest, begins to feel lighter. Movement comes with less bracing. Morning energy holds more steadily through the late morning rather than dropping away before noon. The inflammation that was quietly setting the tone for each day is meeting resistance it did not have before. In the third week, something deeper begins to emerge. Post-meal fatigue, that heavy, sluggish weight after eating that so many seniors accept as simply how digestion feels now, begins to ease. For those monitoring their fasting blood sugar, some begin to notice their morning readings trending in a quieter, more stable direction. By the fourth week and beyond, the changes have become a new baseline. Cardiovascular ease during the morning, mental clarity that arrives earlier and stays longer, and something that is difficult to quantify but consistently described, a sense of systemic calm, of a body that feels, from the inside, less inflamed, less reactive, more like itself. People who commit to this one quiet nightly habit tend to describe the same shift, not a dramatic transformation, but a gradual, reliable sense that their body is recovering overnight the way it used to, that their mornings, once the heaviest part of the day, have begun to belong to them again. And to make this even more real, let me share a brief story that reflects what I hear, time and again, from seniors who discover this simple change. Let me share a story with you, not a clinical case study, simply the kind of story that reflects what so many people in this community experience, and what becomes possible when one small thing changes. Robert is 72 years old, a retired civil engineer from the Pacific Northwest. By most reasonable measures, he was managing his health responsibly. Annual checkups, moderate activity, a diet he genuinely tried to keep balanced. For 2 years, his doctor had been monitoring his fasting blood sugar. Not alarming, but not where it should be. Something to keep an eye on. His knees, worn by decades of work and time, carried a moderate osteoarthritis diagnosis that made mornings their own particular negotiation. He slept adequately, but waking up was a process, stiff, slow, and mentally foggy for the first 2 hours of every day, without exception. His daughter had been reading about Mediterranean dietary patterns. She suggested he try 1 teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil before bed each night. Robert was a practical man. He was not convinced, but he was willing. He changed nothing else. 4 weeks later, the first thing he noticed was his feet hitting the floor differently. Without the careful, braced preparation he had come to think of as simply how mornings worked now. The fog that used to sit over the first 2 hours of his day began lifting earlier, sometimes within 30 minutes of waking. And at his next routine appointment, his fasting glucose had dropped modestly, quietly, without drama, enough that his doctor looked up from the chart and asked what he had changed. One thing, 1 teaspoon, every night. Robert's story is not extraordinary. That is precisely why it matters. Now let me give you the exact protocol, because how you take this, what type you choose, and when you take it relative to sleep, all make a meaningful difference in what you actually experience. Now let me give you exactly what you need to do this correctly, because the details here are not complicated, but they are specific. And specificity is what separates results you can feel from a bottle you try once and forget. Step 1. Choose the right olive oil. This matters more than almost anything else in this protocol. The only olive oil that contains the full polyphenol profile responsible for every mechanism we discussed is extra virgin, cold-pressed, unrefined, and as fresh as possible. Look for a harvest date on the label, not just an expiration date. Fresher oil means higher polyphenol concentration. Choose a dark glass bottle. Light degrades the very compounds you are after. And avoid anything labeled light, pure, or simply olive oil. These have been refined in ways that remove precisely what makes this work. Extra virgin, cold-pressed, dark glass. Those 3 things matter. Step 2. The correct amount. Begin with 1 teaspoon for the first week. Allow your digestive system to adjust before increasing to 1 tablespoon, which is the therapeutic ceiling for this protocol. More is not better here. Excess fat consumed close to sleep can cause digestive discomfort and, for some, disrupt sleep quality. 1 tablespoon, taken correctly, is enough. Precision serves you better than enthusiasm. Step 3. Timing. Take it 30 to 45 minutes before sleep, and ideally, at least 90 minutes after your last meal. This is the window in which your stomach is no longer actively processing a full meal, and the gastric lining is most receptive to polyphenol absorption. This timing is not arbitrary. It is the difference between therapeutic use and incidental consumption. Step 4. How to take it, simply and directly. 1 tablespoon from a small glass or a spoon, followed by a small amount of room temperature water. No elaborate preparation required. You may add the synergistic combinations discussed in the next section, but even taken alone, in this quiet and deliberate way, it is complete. One thing to remember above all: do not heat this portion, ever. Heat degrades oleocanthal and the polyphenol compounds that make this protocol what it is. This is not for cooking. This is for healing. Step 5. Consistency. Commit to 28 consecutive nights before you evaluate what you are experiencing. The bioactive compounds in extra virgin olive oil are cumulative in their effect. They build a presence in your system, reduce inflammation progressively, and support your overnight repair processes more fully with each passing night. 1 tablespoon every night, honored without interruption, will always outperform twice the amount taken 3 times a week. Make it the last intentional act of self-care in your day. The same time, the same quiet ritual, every night. Now, for those of you who want to take this even further, there are a few simple, evidence-supported additions that pair beautifully with olive oil at night and can meaningfully amplify what it does while you sleep. Now, if 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil before sleep is your foundation, what follows are your options for building something even more intentional around it. These are not requirements. Think of them as upgrades, each one simple, each one grounded in evidence, and each one chosen specifically for what seniors over 60 are most likely to need from their overnight healing window. Combination 1. Olive oil with fresh lemon juice. Add a small squeeze of fresh lemon juice, no more than half a lemon, directly to your tablespoon of olive oil before consuming. The mild acidity of lemon juice has been shown to enhance the absorption of fat-soluble polyphenols through a gentle activation effect in the gastric environment. It also contributes vitamin C, a nutrient that plays a direct and underappreciated role in overnight collagen synthesis within arterial walls and joint tissue. And practically speaking, for those who find straight olive oil difficult to take on its own, this combination is significantly more palatable. It is also, not coincidentally, one of the oldest and most instinctive combinations in Mediterranean food culture, empirically trusted long before biochemistry had the language to explain why. Combination 2. Olive oil with a small pinch of black pepper. This is perhaps the most surprising addition, and the one with the most disproportionate impact relative to its simplicity. Black pepper contains a compound called piperine, which has been extensively studied for its ability to enhance the bioavailability of fat-soluble polyphenols, including oleocanthal and hydroxytyrosol, the 2 compounds most responsible for olive oil's anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective effects. A single small pinch added to your tablespoon may meaningfully increase how much of what you are consuming your body actually absorbs and utilizes. 1 pinch. 1 significant difference. Combination 3. Olive oil with raw garlic for cardiovascular focus. For seniors whose primary concern is overnight cardiovascular support, blood pressure, arterial flexibility, and circulatory ease, this combination deserves serious consideration. Raw garlic contains allicin, one of nature's most studied natural vasodilators, with well-documented effects on blood pressure regulation and endothelial function. Combined with olive oil's oleic acid and overnight cardiovascular mechanisms, the two create a genuinely potent, evidence-supported nighttime tonic for the heart and arteries. One practical note: consume this combination at least 45 minutes before sleep, rather than immediately before, to allow any mild digestive activity to settle fully before you lie down. Choose one combination or explore all 3 over time. Build your nighttime ritual in the way that fits your body, your taste, and your specific health priorities. What matters is that you are giving your system deliberate, layered overnight support, and doing so with intention. Before we close with something I genuinely want you to hear, let me make sure this is completely safe for your specific situation. Because while extra virgin olive oil is a whole food, there are a few important considerations every senior should be aware of. Before you begin, and I sincerely hope you do, there are a few things I want you to know, not as warnings, as the kind of complete, honest information that every person starting something new for their health deserves to have. Extra virgin olive oil is a whole food. It is one of the most extensively studied, widely consumed and broadly well-tolerated substances in nutritional medicine. For the vast majority of seniors, this protocol is gentle, safe, and deeply compatible with how the body wants to function. But completely is the standard I hold myself to here. So let me be thorough. If you are managing your weight, be aware that 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil contains approximately 120 calories. This does not need to be a barrier, but it does need to be accounted for within your daily intake rather than added invisibly on top of it. If you have a history of gallbladder disease or gallstones, please speak with your physician before starting. Fat consumption, even healthy fat, can stimulate gallbladder contractions, and your doctor should be part of that conversation. If you take blood-thinning medications, including warfarin, please inform your physician before adding therapeutic amounts of olive oil to your routine. Olive oil has mild natural anticoagulant properties that can interact with how these medications perform, and your levels may need monitoring. If you experience acid reflux or GERD, begin with 1 teaspoon rather than a full tablespoon and allow 1 to 2 weeks before increasing. Some individuals find that consuming any fat close to lying down can aggravate reflux symptoms. Starting slowly gives your body time to show you what it needs. For most people watching this, none of these apply. This is safe, this is gentle, and being informed is not a reason to hesitate. It is simply the mark of someone who takes their health seriously, which is exactly the kind of person you are. Now, I want to leave you with something important, because I think you deserve to hear this directly. I want to leave you with this: what you have been experiencing, the stiff mornings, the fog that takes hours to lift, the fatigue that sleep no longer seems to fix, the sense that your body is gradually becoming something you have to manage rather than something that carries you. None of that is simply the price of the years you have lived. It is, in large part, a body that has not been given what it needs during the hours it needs it most. Not because you failed it, not because you stopped caring, but because no one sat down with you and explained what changes after 60 and what your body's overnight healing window actually requires to do its work. You are not too old. You are under-supported. And that is something you can begin to change tonight, with 1 teaspoon, in the quiet hour before sleep, in your own home, on your own terms. You are someone who did not give up. You are here. You watched, you listened, and out of everything competing for your attention today, you chose to invest that time in understanding your own body more deeply. That is not nothing. That is everything. So here is the image I want to leave in your mind. Imagine your next 30 mornings, waking with less stiffness, a mind that clears earlier, a body that moves through the first hour of the day with an ease you had quietly stopped expecting. Not because something dramatic happened, but because every single night, while the world was still and quiet around you, your body was finally being given what it needed to heal. That is what 1 teaspoon can begin to build. Starting tonight. Now I would love to hear from you. How old are you, and where in the world are you watching from tonight? Have you ever tried extra virgin olive oil as part of your health routine? Or is this the first time you are hearing about what it can do while you sleep? Drop it in the comments below. Your age, your location, your experience, even your skepticism. Because your story might be exactly what someone else in this community needed to read today. And if this video gave you something valuable, something worth keeping, please share it with someone you care about. A friend, a spouse, a sibling, someone who goes to bed every night not knowing that one small thing could change how they wake up tomorrow.